The First Battle of Geonosis, also referred to as the Battle of Geonosis, was the first major battle fought in 22 BBY between the Confederacy of Independent Systems and the Galactic Republic on Geonosis, marking the beginning of the 3-year Clone Wars. It would be the first major combat of the Grand Army of the Republic, as well as the first major battle the Jedi had fought in years. Obi-Wan's investigation led him to follow the bounty hunter Jango Fett. While on Kamino, Kenobi had discovered the foundation of an army of clone troopers for the Republic. After that, both traveled to the planet Geonosis. Then Obi-Wan managed to intercept a meeting of the Separatist Council members and was taken captive by the Confederacy. Although ordered by Windu to remain on Tatooine, Amidala and Skywalker had departed for Geonosis in order to rescue the Jedi Knight, where, following a prolonged struggle in the droid manufacturing facilities, were also taken prisoner by the Geonosians and sentenced to execution in the Petranaki arena along with Kenobi. However, the three managed to narrowly escape their executions as they outmaneuvered their animal executioners in Acclamator, a Nexu, and a Reek, while Windu and his strike team arrived on the planet, erupting the chaotic First Battle of Geonosis. A group of 212 Jedi, which was the largest deployment of Jedi since the High Republic era, including Ki-Adi-Mundi, Plo Koon, Kit Fisto, and many others who were tasked with rescuing Obi-Wan Kenobi. Skywalker, Amidala, and Kenobi managed to avoid the creatures that had been set upon them long enough for Master Windu's Jedi strike team to show up. As the Jedi came into view throughout the arena, many Geonosians chose to flee rather than face them in combat. However, Count Dooku deployed the Separatists' new battle droid army, beginning a violent battle that took place in the arena as the droid legions were unleashed. The first batch of B-2 series super battle droids were part of the army. Though outnumbered, the Jedi fought bravely even as their ranks were slowly diminished in the face of an unending number of battle droids. It was during the fierce battle that the bounty hunter Jango Fett attempted to kill the famed Jedi Master, Mace Windu. However, during their confrontation, the Reek charged Fett and nearly crushed him. Although Fett slayed the beast, its attack had broken his jetpack. When the duel resumed, Mace Windu charged straight towards Fett, deflecting his blaster shots. At the last second, the Mandalorian attempted to activate his jetpack, but it backfired, allowing Mace to close in, quickly bisect Fett's blaster pistol, and decapitate the notorious bounty hunter, which disturbed Dooku in the process. Despite the bravery of the Jedi, Dooku's droids held the upper hand. However, due to the legion of battle droids significantly outnumbering the Jedi, many Jedi were slain by the droids' blaster fire, and when the last of the surviving Jedi became surrounded, Dooku called a halt to the fighting. The Separatist head of state offered the Jedi the chance to surrender, but Windu declined, saying the Jedi would not become hostages with which Dooku could barter. Dooku then apologetically ordered the surrounding droids to slaughter the Jedi, only for Yoda to arrive overhead with a regiment of clone troopers, launching a somewhat desperate assault into the arena in waves aboard gunships. The sudden arrival of the clone army saved the survivors and created a perimeter for long enough that they could board and escape. As Jedi General Yoda and the survivors evacuated the vacant arena cluttered with droid parts, the first battle of the Clone Wars began. Following the Grand Army's arrival, the Neimoidians on Geonosis fled to their Federation core ships, while Dooku and the other CIS leaders left to a Geonosian command center to oversee the battle. After the rescue of the Jedi, the droid and clone armies battled one another in an intricate series of confrontations on a number of different fronts. Much of the Separatists' heavy equipment had already been loaded onto their transports, but with their communications being jammed, the rest was hastily thrown at the clones in order to buy the Confederacy Navy enough time to escape. Meanwhile, the Republic Army's goal was to capture the Separatists' leadership and as much of the Geonosian droid foundries intact as possible in order to uncover the depths of the Separatist conspiracy, precluding the indiscriminate use of starship weapons. The resulting battle would mostly consist of ground combat then. But, although the clone troopers were greatly outnumbered by battle droids, the Republic enjoyed air dominance. Nevertheless, at some point during the battle, the Geonosians did launch thousands of standby Nantex-class territorial defense starfighters to break the Republic's orbital cordon, which was preventing separatist ground reinforcements from the corporate alliance. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Senator Amidala took a gunship to attack the lightly armored Techno-Union transports, while the gunship carrying Yoda and Mace Windu proceeded onto a nearby assembly area. After arriving, Mace took command of a number of special commando units, while Yoda proceeded to the forward command center, where he would direct the overall battle. On all fronts, the two sides grappled with each other in fierce combat, heavily armored T-walkers facing down hordes of battle droids. As AUG-9 homing spider droids swept their laser cannons across clone trooper battalions, Republic gunships strafed the separatist front lines, and lost a number to intense laser flak. As the Trade Federation core ships attempted to take off, Yoda commanded the Army's self-propelled heavy artillery to bring a number of them crashing back to the ground. Because the core ships on Geonosis were ringed with air and land defenses, many of them were able to escape to the skies. As the clone troopers pushed back the battle droids, the separatist leader Dooku, secretly Darth Tyranus, attempted to retreat to a hangar. Upon arriving at Dooku's hangar, Kenobi and Skywalker confronted the Count. As Kenobi began to strategize, Skywalker impatiently charged at the Count. Before he could reach Dooku, however, the Count intercepted Skywalker with a blast of Force lightning, hurling the young Jedi against a wall and incapacitating him. After that, Kenobi initiated the lightsaber duel by aggressively charging the Count, but Dooku deflected Kenobi's opening attack and his subsequent jab. After a quick flurry of blade work, Kenobi sliced at Dooku's legs, but the Count leapt over the strike and flourished his blade to drive Kenobi back as he landed. As Dooku lifted his lightsaber to finish Kenobi, Skywalker managed to recover from the Count's blast of Force lightning. Seeing Kenobi's plight, Skywalker ignited his lightsaber and used the Force to leap across the hangar. As he landed, he managed to intercept what would have been a killing stroke on Kenobi by Dooku. Dooku turned to regard Skywalker and mocked him for his earlier foolishness, and as the two opponents disengaged, Kenobi used the Force to reclaim his fallen lightsaber and threw it to Skywalker. Though Skywalker managed in that time to hold his own against the Count, Dooku unceremoniously ended the duel by slicing off Anakin's right arm above the elbow. As Anakin shouted in agony, Dooku blasted him aside with a Force push. The young Jedi skidded over to where Kenobi was lying and lost consciousness. As Dooku caught his breath, Yoda entered the hangar and confronted his former student. Dooku asserted that his diminutive former master would not interfere with his affairs again, and immediately attempted to kill Yoda by telekinetically flinging a pair of wall fixtures at him. Yoda repelled the fixtures with his own powers, but launched no counteroffensive. Dooku then used the Force to break apart a small portion of the hangar ceiling, which he dropped onto Yoda. Again, however, Yoda was able to toss the improvised missiles aside. Yoda noted that Dooku had become powerful, but lamented that he could sense the dark side of the Force in his former student. In response, Dooku boasted that his power was now greater than that of any Jedi, even Yoda's own. He then unleashed a storm of Force lightning at the Grand Master, but Yoda used the Force to catch the bolt with his bare hand. Without any apparent strain, he redirected the blast back at Dooku, who deflected it into a nearby wall. Recognizing the futility of continuing his Force-based assault, Dooku challenged Yoda to lightsaber combat and ignited his blade. Yoda silently accepted and ignited his own lightsaber, and the two combatants leapt at each other. A brief but very intense duel then ensued, in which Yoda was able to gain a slight but visible advantage over the Count. Recognizing that he could not defeat Yoda, and forced to act due to incoming Republic reinforcements, Dooku diverted Yoda's focus by using the Force to collapse one of the hangar's power columns onto Kenobi and Skywalker. Yoda broke off the duel in order to telekinetically catch the power column, preventing it from crushing the two Jedi. Seizing the opportunity, Dooku quickly boarded his ship and fled. Count Dooku, who was secretly a Sith Lord called Darth Tyranus, traveled to Coruscant to convene with his master Darth Sidious, who was settled in a deserted building in the works. Pleased by the news of war, Sidious commanded his apprentice to arrange a second battlefront against the Republic. Meanwhile, the Grand Army of the Republic was assembled throughout the galaxy as the Clone Wars began. 1,000 more Acclamator I-class assault ships were ordered following the battle. At the Jedi Temple, Kenobi and Windu both declared their shared belief that the battle would not have been won without the clones. However, Master Yoda was quick to point out the irony in such a Pyrrhic victory, as the Republic had only fought their first of many such battles, in what became known as the Clone Wars. The Council also agreed to investigate the Sith Lord that Dooku had mentioned to Obi-Wan Kenobi during the latter's capture, Darth Sidious, in case Dooku was telling the truth. It would not be until 3 years later, nearing the end of the Clone Wars, that they would finally identify Sidious as being none other than Supreme Chancellor Palpatine.